This is the month of May, guys. We are talking about getting unstuck, of course. You might hear a little bit about mental health since this is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I have a special guest from Europe, which I'm totally stoked about. This is my first guest from Europe, and amazing woman. I've been watching her on Threads a lot and on a little bit on Instagram, but more so Threads, to see how she sees the world, how she's not going at the same pace or the same way as the world is doing things, and she's getting a lot of results. So Tara, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's so great to be here to share my wisdom with the world. Nice.
Now, Tara, tell the people who don't know you who you are and what do you do?
Yeah, I'm an energetics coach and spiritual guide, and I work with mostly female entrepreneurs on all the things energetic, so mindset, emotions, but also feminine energy and feminine leadership, and connecting with their own spiritual guidance so that they can go out there and attract the lives and the businesses and the financial freedom that they're desiring for themselves.
I love it. Where have you found this to be an issue? So you had to have seen this be an issue for you to start going this route. Where did you know, or where did you find this to be an issue?
So for me, personally, I do think, especially when it comes to, leading your own business or trying to build your own business, I think we're often get caught up in stories that the world tells us, or ways society perceives success, or how society thinks a successful business is built. Mm-hmm. And I do think specifically for women, that approach sometimes doesn't work, or oftentimes doesn't work, because we all know that building a business usually is taught in a way that's very masculine, where we have to work really hard, we have to sell a lot, we have to be really good at making money, and it's very much so approached from logic and strategy. And I've seen and also personally experienced that just doesn't work for a lot of women. They end up burning out, or they're just not feeling aligned anymore with what they're doing, or they don't even see the success because they just feel all this ickiness and this unaligned feelings, just frustration within, and this resentment and resistance. And so I've realized that as women specifically, but not just as women, we all have inherent gifts within us, and we're all connected with spirit and a higher power that's guiding us. And if we open up to that, and if we lean into that, then this path of creating a successful business becomes so much easier. And then of course, I'm of the belief that every result you ever create should stem from your belief system. And so if something in your world doesn't look like the way you want it to look like, and again, I've seen a lot of people struggle, and I've personally also had a quite difficult journey with business in the early stages. So I very much so think that a lot of the reasons why some people don't succeed in business is because they have belief systems or energetic blocks that hold them back from attracting the success that they're desiring. And that's kind of why mostly it comes from my own personal experience of, starting my business. And then because the reason I started this was because I had created my dream life and had manifested so much of my vision growing up. And I was like, okay, this works. There's something here. I have to share this. But then I started this business and I experienced so much challenges on the way that was like, okay, hold on, something isn't working here. So why don't I apply what I did previous with my vision that I had earlier to building a business? And that's where kind of things started to shift.
Where I love this. What was your biggest struggle starting your business that made you say hey, I gotta stop and make some change? Or what was that about?
So from the outside, it was just, I wasn't signing clients. I was showing up on social media. I had offers ready. I was ready to do things, sign clients, but they were just not coming. And of course, there were a lot of strategy pieces as well that had to be put into place. But I'd say around the like 2.5 year mark of being in business, I just had built up so much resentment and energetic resistance towards signing clients because I'd already done so much strategy work. I had improved my funnels, I had improved my messaging, I had worked with coaches, and I was still not seeing the results. And so I built up this inner resentment towards why is it not happening? And I just realized that, first of all, I was out of alignment with abundance. So my money mindset was quite not in place. But also I was coming a lot from my masculine energy and didn't allow for intuitive guidance to lead me in business, which ultimately, and we can go deeper into that too, is how you're going to get the messages and the action steps that eventually then lead you to success. Because the thing is that, like, every strategy, every action step that someone says works, it works, but we're all on our individual paths. And like, someone incarnates on this earth like with the sole mission of having it really easy to build a successful business, but then someone else has to go through a lot of other like lessons and challenges on the way there just because of the life path that they chose before they incarnated. And so we have to really like take a step back and listen to our intuition in order to receive the guidance that is designed for us for the life path that we chose, in order to walk the path of least resistance. So that's kind of the things that I then started to do in order to shift things for myself.
I like, where or how do you show up now on social media, where social media is mainly, which I don't like, it's mainly everyone has to follow this exact plan, this exact way, and if you don't, you're doomed, and if you do, you're automatically going to be making 10K a month. How do you show up on social media now with all of that, all of those messages coming out?
Yeah, so I think that the biggest thing for me, and again, these are things that I constantly have to remind myself of as well, is to not consume too much. To really, like, now Instagram at least has this incredible feature where you can like mute certain words or certain types of content. And I do this. I muted everything that has to do with social media advice, or, how to gain followers, or like how to make money online, like all these terms I just muted. So Instagram won't show me that content. And then I also muted people that I was following that do that type of content. And generally I try to consume as little as possible on social media so that I don't get all these confusing messages in terms of, no, but you should do this and then you should do that. And, constantly get into this then thought cycle of I need to do things in a certain way, and then like essentially trying to implement all of that, finding it doesn't work, and then like changing the strategy all over again. So not exposing myself to too much information, catching myself every time I get into that thought cycle of no, someone said this, I should be doing this. So like recognizing that and then going back to no, I don't need to do this, right? I'm on my own path. I know what I need to be doing. Like, let's trust myself here for a moment. And then making time in my day to be with my own thoughts and to maybe meditate and receive, like we all have different ways of receiving intuitive guidance. For me is either sitting in stillness or meditating or going on a walk. And I'll implement these things in my day to create space for these intuitive downloads to come to me, and then I will take note. I've got a list in my journal of these intuitive hits that I get, and then I will go in every week, every day to review that list and see, okay, what of that action steps can I do today? And then I'm going to work them off like a usual to-do list. And when it comes to content creation specifically, I just try to speak from my heart, and I'm trying to approach content creation a way that I approach conversations like that, right? I am always imagine like a friend of mine sitting there. What do they need to hear right now? What do I feel called to share with them? And also something that's huge for me is like, if I'm not inspired, if I feel like I don't have anything to share right now, I'm not going to show up. I'm not going to create content for content's sake. I of course have a list. If I'm inspired, I take notes. And if I'm uninspired and have an idea on my notes list, I can go to that. But if I generally don't feel like showing up, I'm not going to show up.
I love that. I love that. Do you find living in Europe, and I'm not sure if you lived in Europe all of your life, have you?
Yes, I grew up here.
Okay. Do you find living in Europe makes it easier to adopt that type of mindset when it comes to business, or do you find it harder?
I find it harder because, because there's so much shoulds and have tos that are being taught, and especially like in career, I think in corporate and business, there is so much noise around this is the perfect path you should be going down. This is the way you should be doing things. And I grew up in an entrepreneurial family, so my dad also has his own business. He always had, ever since I can remember, long before I was born. And there's always this like, and my brother is also very much into entrepreneurship, and there's always this like clear outlined path of this is how you should be doing things. And then as soon as you break out of that a little bit, everyone's going to say like, no, you're not going to be successful because you don't follow that path. And so I think it's harder to adopt that mindset of I'm going to follow my own guidance because everyone else around you tells you not to.
I can attest to that. I agree with that, and I think it's similar here. It's similar here, and I start to wonder why we treat business as if it has to be a one size fits all, and everyone has to do it the same exact way. Because quite frankly, like you said, sometimes your belief systems are wrong and you don't know it. Sometimes you're, like you said, you're resenting a process or resenting clients and might not know. So how does Tara, with being a businesswoman and all of the hats that you wear, how do you handle your mental health?
Such a good question. Again, I'm trying to lead it from my feminine energy as often as possible. So meaning I try to really have a lot of white space in my schedule, where I just have no calls, no to-dos, nothing, just like white space, so that I can lay in the sun or journal if I feel like it, or take a meditation, go on a walk, whatever, nourishes my soul. I also make sure that I do check in with myself regularly, so very intentionally check in with myself, how I'm feeling. Usually do that in my morning, and also at nighttime. Also cleanse my energy. I'm a lot into Reiki and things like that. So really make sure that my energetic body is cleansed, because obviously our mind, body, and soul, they're all kind of influencing each other. And if we're mentally not well, then we also not like physically not well sometimes, but also the vice versa, right? You got to take care of your emotional health, but also your physical health in order for your mental health to be well. So I also do, the basics like working out and things. And one other thing that I think is really important in terms of mental health that I'm implementing myself a lot too is to get help. Every time I feel like I'm stuck mentally, I'm in a thought process that I can't get out myself, I'm gonna go get a spiritual guidance session, or I'm gonna go see a therapist or talk to a friend and just get it out, or talk to my partner, right? To get it out, to get a fresh perspective, because sometimes we're so caught up in the stories that we tell ourselves that even a walk or a bath or running doesn't really help, because we are still so caught up in our mind. And in order to get out of that cycle, we have to get a fresh perspective, and we usually get that through other people.
I like that, because usually when we get stuck, we usually go back to like, let me just keep digging myself, where you might just need to talk it out and someone gives you another clear perspective. Something you had put on, I think it was Threads. I think you said my boss gave me 3 to 4 hours off
Yeah.
Off today, how does it feel being an entrepreneur versus working for like a boss?
It feels both good and challenging at times. Obviously, there's amazing sides like being able to take a 4-hour-long lunch break, or, you know, taking a day off to go somewhere for a long weekend or something. It's amazing. It's amazing to be able to do what you love, right? And decide, okay, I don't like doing this task, so I'm gonna outsource it. It's amazing. But also, I think there's things that a lot of people don't really talk about with entrepreneurship that are really hard, like having like the financial pressure that's on yourself, right? You have to be the one generating the money, because otherwise there is no money. And sometimes, because there's like no consistency, there's no like, of course, at a certain stage in your business there will be consistency, but especially in the early stages, like as a small business, there is no consistency, right? There is no consistent paycheck, and you have to really make sure that you're taking care of your mental health and also of your energetic frequency in order to sustain those phases where you're mid of the month and you haven't signed a new client or something, and then you just have to like process that and navigate that on a nervous system level, that you're going to be okay, right? Even if there's just like 2 days left of the month and you just still have to like pay bills and things. So I think that's definitely something. And then also, especially if you're a solo entrepreneur, having to make a lot of decisions by yourself. You don't have anyone to rely on, and entrepreneurship is a lot of responsibility, and that sometimes can be a heavy weight on yourself, right? If you have to make all these decisions, and if you don't know what to do in order to, you know, move forward, and you eventually have to make it out with yourself, at least in you know, the early stages. When you don't have a team, and even if you have a team, right, there's a lot of decisions that only you can make as the business owner. So I do think it's both amazing and challenging at the same time.
I want social media. I'm gonna make sure I get that part of the clip, because I need social media to hear that about entrepreneurship. If you don't work, eventually, especially in the early stages, you don't get paid. But you said something that was really, really cool. Being an entrepreneur, especially a small business owner or a solopreneur, a lot of the decisions you have to make on your own. And I think people feel that entrepreneurship is easier than working for somebody.
It's not.
It's
not. Like, working for someone is so much easier. The hard thing about working for someone else is that you will probably have to do work that you don't like. And that in itself is also very challenging. Like, and I think once you found your dharma, once you found your purpose, it's harder to do things that you don't like and work for someone else than bearing all the uncertainty and the decision making and the roller coaster of entrepreneurship. But working for someone else is easier for sure.
It's way easier. You're guaranteed the same paycheck, which is not bad. You're guaranteed the same paycheck. You're usually guaranteed the same amount of hours, and there's consistency. But what's the flip side of working for somebody else only when you have found your purpose?
I think it's just, once you found your purpose, you know, everything makes sense, and you really, like, you finally know what you love doing, and you want to spend the rest of your life doing that thing. And so if you cannot do that in your work, in your corporate job, then it's going to be hard. And every time you work for someone else, you're going to think about how you're not going to be able to do the thing that is your purpose, right? And how your gifts are wasted too. And of course, there's maybe jobs that can come very close to what it's like to live our purpose. So if you've realized, okay, your purpose is to help online businesses make money on social media, then you can have like a social media job somewhere at an agency or something, and can come really close to like living your purpose. But it's not going to be the same, since you're not going to be able to make the impact that you could be making if you were making it on your own. Like for me, for example, I could work in a yoga studio and, do Reiki sessions there, or in a gym and, give mental, like health training there or whatever. But it's not the same as working with this specific person that I know I can help the best in the ways that I want to help them. And also with the freedom of creativity that really helps me to deliver my best services, because in corporate jobs we're always in some way put in a box, and we are stripped of a lot of freedom that allows us to really step into the purpose and let our gifts flow out in the way they need to flow out in order for us to make the biggest impact that we can possibly have.
I'm gonna make sure I get these clips, because
why don't you just put the whole episode on social media?
It would have been like the whole 30 minutes. That's just you guys there. What would be advice if someone came to you, male or female, and they were like, Tara, I really want to start my business. What are 3 things I should do? What would you say?
So first of all, and I think that's more like a disclaimer, take to heart what we just talked about. It's not easy. If you want to start your own business because you think it's an easy way out, don't do it, because you're going to eventually give up. You're going to suffer a lot, and it's just not going to be fun, and you're never going to succeed if you're doing it for that. The first advice that I would say is figure out really well what it is that you want to do, what lights your soul on fire, find your purpose. Because I think starting a business just to have a business, doing something that you're mediocre enjoying, it's not going to work, because you need something that really lights a fire under your butt in order to sustain those harder times, because there will be a lot of times where you go and question yourself, why am I even doing this? What do I do this for? It's so much easier to work for someone else. And so you really need that why and that passion for the work that you're doing in order to keep going. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing is work on your inner alignment, work on your mindset, work on your energetic blueprint. So the beliefs that you're having about business, about money, but also the emotions that you're holding towards money and towards business. Also, confidence in your ability to deliver the services that you're saying you're going to deliver. And then the third part is to work on your spiritual connection. Because eventually your spiritual connection is your best business strategy, right? Of course, then you're going to go in and hire someone, or, take courses, Google, whatever you need to be doing to set up your individual business, whatever that may be. But eventually your spiritual connection and your connection with your intuition, that's going to be your best business strategy. That's the strategy that you need in order to really figure out what action steps are going to take you to where you want to be, with your unique life path in consideration.
I love it. So Tara, we usually end the show with a couple of random questions that have nothing
amazing
to do about anything that we just talked about. So, you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. First question: what's the craziest thing that Tara has done?
Wow. I went to live 2 years in a third world country to see if I want to marry my now husband.
Wow. And it worked.
It worked.
But you decided to live in Europe though.
Yeah, we decided because Cuba is just not a place I want to live. But since he couldn't come to see if it works here, I had to go and live there.
Wow. For 2 years?
Yeah, because 1 year was originally to see how the relationship unfolds, and then the visa process took another year, so it ended up being 2 years.
Wow, that's bold.
Yeah.
Okay. Tara's favorite movie?
Crown. It's not a movie, but it's a series, and I really love it. It's so inspiring.
Okay. What's one thing that Tara wants to do in life that she hasn't done yet?
I want to travel Vietnam and Thailand. I had the flights booked, but they got all cancelled in COVID. So, and
Oh,
I never made it there since I went to live in Cuba. So I definitely want to do that still.
okay, okay. What's the reason behind it?
I just like my early 20s, I traveled, like I was a digital nomad for 6 years. And like during university, I always wanted to just travel without a return ticket. And because I always had to like come home to like do exams or something like that. And I just really wanted to do that after university, but then, and I had all my flights booked, but then they all got cancelled because of COVID. And so it's like something that I still want to do. It feels like unfinished business to me. That's kind of left from that, 20s chapter. I'm going to turn 30 in a few years. So, yeah.
I like it. I like it. Last question. What made you accept the invite to come on this podcast?
First of all, we got connected over a mutual friend. So I think that's always I love connecting with friends of friends because I feel like we always have things in common and we just connect. So that's definitely something. And then also, I love doing podcasts in general because I love listening to them and they're always so inspiring.
Yeah.
I'm like, essentially, we're all here just to, share bits and pieces of our gifts, of our stories in order to inspire other people. And I do definitely believe, and that's, whether I'm holding space for someone to share this story on my platforms or I get to share my story on other people's platforms, we all essentially work on this collective mission of contributing to the awakening of the world. And so every opportunity I get to do that in a way that feels aligned with me, like for example, through friends of friends who I connect with, that are opportunities I'm going to say yes to.
I love it. I love it. Tara, how can people find you? I'll make sure to put it in the show notes, but how can people go find you and learn more about what you do?
Yeah, so social media, obviously you mentioned Threads and Instagram already. My handle is Tara.Fischer on both. And then I have a podcast too, which is called the Be Magnetic Podcast. These are probably the best two places to connect with me and learn more about what I do and just be up to date about everything else that I'm up to.
Awesome. And we'll make sure we spell Fisher right in the show notes so you guys may miss the C that's inside of her last name. Tara, thank you so much for coming. I learned a lot and I learned a lot about you, and I'm pretty sure the audience is going to love what they hear and they're going to go and build amazing businesses. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Have a good one.